This episode is presented by State Farm. Having insurance isn't the same as having State Farm. It's like needing the protection of an offensive guard on the football field, but getting an elementary school crossing guard. Sure, they're both guards, but you can only trust one to keep your quarterback safe when the game is on the line. So don't settle for just any insurance when there's State Farm. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
This episode is brought to you by Amazon Prime. Black Friday game day on Prime is an epic day of live sports. It all starts at 9 a.m. Eastern with the Capital One Skins game. Then, Black Friday football returns when the Bears take on the Eagles at 3 p.m. And it culminates with the final night of Emirates NBA Cup group play with Bucks Knicks at 7 p.m. and Mavs Lakers at 10 p.m. Black Friday game day, only on Prime.
With new, gentler-scented Clorox disinfecting wipes, clean finally smells as good as it feels. On everything from lamps to ceiling fans. Even on your kid's toy shark. Oh, ouch. Clorox disinfecting wipes. Now available in crisp lemon. Find it on Amazon. Clorox. Clean feels good.
No one should have to choose between their own safety and their pets. But nearly half of domestic abuse survivors delay leaving because they can't bring their pets with them. Purina is helping to create more pet-friendly domestic violence shelters through the Purple Leash Project, so survivors and their pets can escape and heal together. Visit Purina.com/purple to learn more.
Back with another episode of The Blue Turf. This is Thad Bell from the KC Soccer Journal. With me, I have Eric Bergrud from the...
Well, we're at the world-famous Kansas City Soccer Dome, but I'm from the Comets broadcast team.
Yeah, see, I tried to set you up there.
That's all right.
You try to throw me a curveball every time.
That's all right.
No, I would throw everybody a curveball anyway. We're a couple days out from the start of the season. 2 games versus St. Louis. One there on Black Friday, one in Kansas City on Saturday.
Small Business Saturday. How's that?
Preferable. All right. What have you thought about this team so far? I mean, preseason, we see guys out here warming up or doing some drills.
Well, I think if you'd asked me this question a couple months ago and we were still trying to figure out how many teams were going to be in the league, how would everything shake out, they were looking fine, right? The roster was setting up fine. Then all of a sudden, Dom Francis, we knew that David Stankovic was coming,
right,
and he's a good young player. The signing of Dom Francis to a 3-year contract all of a sudden elevated everybody's excitement. And then Nacho Flores, the captain who had retired, unretired. Nicolau Neto's back. So I think that you have the gang all back together and really focused and believing, not just thinking, but believing this is our year, this is our time. And while other people across the league are focused on San Diego Sockers as being the impossible team to beat, this team believes that they can win the championship.
Well, I think if you're going to point at 2 teams that could beat San Diego, I think this is definitely one of them. A lot of good players, very experienced, good goal scorers, solid defense, good keeping, good midfielders, depth, mostly healthy to start the season, I would say. I mean, I'll try to get the official word later, but I would say that it's kind of looking good. We talked last pod about, we kind of ran through all the lines of all the players that have been in camp. I don't think they've announced the one player, but I think one of them is still being signed.
There's an announcement, I believe, coming out on Thanksgiving.
Sneaking it in at the last moment.
Yeah, I think there's an announcement. Comets fans should check their socials.
Which this should be out the day before Thanksgiving, but
Well, who knows if it comes out today? I think it'll be out on Thanksgiving, but leading into the weekend, you know that it's always going to be a battle against St. Louis. I mean, I believe that this team expects to win 2, whether that happens. I mean,
right,
ultimately, you'll see on the field who shows up, who doesn't, and who wins. But the last few years as a bunch has been okay, we're going to win at home and then we'll see what happens on the road. The last truly dominant Comets team, and we're going back into the Vlatko Andonovski era, didn't matter where they played, they believed they were going to win. And I think we're seeing a return to that mentality this season.
And I think that's all part of a coach's progress as a coach and as this team that he's brought to this level. Is you keep raising expectations. If you want to be a great team in any league, you got to keep raising expectations, and he's going to be pushing them.
Well, and I think if you look at the dominant teams in the MASL, again, say the last 5 years, so the I guess we could call them the late great Chihuahua Savage and San Diego Sockers, they were confident no matter where they played. You knew they were going to be tough to play at their arena, but when they went on the road, they expected to win. And that's the type of mentality you need to have in this league to win the championship.
Yeah, it all starts at home, but to be a great team, you have to take it on the road, right?
Well, and we'll talk about playoff format. The league announced the playoff format this year. Regular season record is critical because you will have an opportunity if you're the 1 or the 2 seed to get a first-round bye. You absolutely want that rest up a little bit and get home field into that semifinal round. And so approaching this weekend bad, these aren't games you just look back and say, oh, it's okay that we dropped it, we'll make it up later on. You don't have enough games in the season. It's a 24-game season. You don't have the luxury of just dropping a game and not regretting it.
And while every team plays every team, it's still not a balanced schedule. So you need to, again, this is not to disparage St. Louis, although I will joke about them a lot at times. You can't just overlook teams and say, they're, but also you need to make points against teams that you should win against, both on the road and at home.
Yeah, totally agreed. For sure at home. I mean, I think to get at least a 2 seed, you're probably having to run the table at home. Yep. Maybe you get away with losing a game, but you absolutely need to be dominant there and be above 500 on the road.
That's what it's going to take. Tell me about St. Louis. What do you know about them?
Well, they started off in a rough place last year. You might recall they signed the Taiyu brothers. It didn't turn out the way they expected, and they made some roster moves. Yeah, they made some roster moves, finished the season strong, really strong, and had a chance in that first round in San Diego, and unfortunately for them, they couldn't connect. So they're going to have more confidence than where they started last year. A couple names who might be familiar. James Togba returning to St. Louis. He was off last year. Keaton Woods played for UCFC. He a strong player too. So they've had a couple. They've had some other young signings. I'm kind of curious just to watch them this weekend to see do the young guys get playing time, or is it the core? And then the young guys have to earn their time. It'll be interesting to see what the coaching staff there has in store as they look at back-to-back games with the Comets.
All right, so back to the playoffs for a second. 1 and 2 get a bye. 3 will play 6 at 3s. 4 will play 5 at 4. I'm sometimes I go back and forth a little bit on having byes in soccer. Because sometimes, in any sport, sometimes that means you're not in game form by you get a week off.
I get that and appreciate it, but just play this through with best case scenario, right? If you're the 1 or 2 seed, you have home field advantage in the semifinal round. If you're the 1 seed, you potentially have home field advantage in the final round. Assuming that San Diego is going to be the 1 or the 2, I would much rather have them play 2 times at my arena than have to go into their arena and win the championship there.
So that's a 3-game set?
In both the semis and then the finals. So with the finals, it's interesting. They introduced a wrinkle last year and it didn't play out. There's a possibility if the arenas work out where instead of being home and a home plus a mini game, it would be 2 games at the higher seed arena. And so we could see that this year. You absolutely would want to have that home field advantage in the championship round.
Oh, yeah. I understand the home field advantage. I'm always a little bit leery sometimes of those buys and taking a week off or however long it would end up being.
Well, but here's the other thing. I was talking to somebody on the field. We were doing some Fox Sports stuff this morning with Nick Bassos. Until somebody beats San Diego there at Front Wave Arena, there's going to be this intimidation factor. We can't win in San Diego, but it's just going to take one team,
right,
and then everybody will think so. But for now, they're the team to beat. They have an arena where nobody has beaten them at yet, and so they have all the confidence in the world that if they have that bye and that first seed, that they're lifting the trophy.
Yeah, I totally understand, and I don't know that there is a single right answer for any of this. And we'll keep tweaking these formats until we don't pay attention.
Well, I mean, ultimately, it doesn't matter where you start the season. This is going to sound so cliched. It doesn't matter where you start the season. It matters where you end the season. If you think about St. Louis, going back to what we were talking about, they didn't look at the beginning of the season anything like the team they were at the end of the season. They made some moves. They made some trades. Picking up Williamson for Taiyu, the trade they made with Milwaukee, was huge for them and shored them up defensively. And so there's either going to be one team with a 2-0 record, another team with an 0-2 record, or they're going to have 1-1 records this weekend. I'm more concerned about when we get into March and we're looking at Kansas City, San Diego, home and home weekends, 2 of the final 3 weekends, I believe. That's when you're going to really know, is this Comets team playoff ready?
All right, so game on Friday, on the road, Black Friday at St. Louis. You talked a little bit about some of the players there. How do you think that matchup's going to go? Or do you think Coach is going to take a different set of players than he plays at home? Or is he going to go with just the best players he has at the moment?
I haven't asked him this question, and
I will try to later if I get a chance.
Ask him the question. I haven't seen the injury report either. I mean, he has the luxury to make some moves, but I would expect that all the stars will be chomping at the bit to play there. So would I expect to see a few differences in the starting 16, day 1 versus day 2? Yes, but I wouldn't expect to be like 8 roster changes between Friday and Saturday.
Yeah, probably not that many.
And I would expect this for any back-to-back game, right? You're going to want to check to see who's banged up, who has fresh legs,
right.
And early on, you never know what injuries you're going to pick up.
Meet the computer you can talk to. With Copilot on Windows, working, creating, and collaborating is as easy as talking. Got writer's block? Share your screen with Copilot Vision to help spark inspiration, and use Copilot Voice to have a conversation and brainstorm ideas. Or maybe you need some tech help. With Copilot Vision, Copilot sees what you see. Let Copilot talk you through step-by-step guidance so you can master new apps, games, and skills faster. Try now at windows.com/Copilot.
Hello, I'm Diane Morgan. If you know who I am, you know who I am. If you don't, who cares? I'm here to explain Italian Time, a holiday phenomenon where Italians throw away their clocks and gather for eternity with San Pellegrino. I've been at this party so long that I've eaten 5 courses, hugged someone's grandma twice, and been offered a job in the family restaurant. So this holiday season, make sure to bring enough San Pellegrino to last you through the meal, the after meal, and the entire goodbye ritual. San Pellegrino, holiday on Italian Time.
Introducing Oakley Meta Vanguard, the new performance AI glasses designed for athletes. With hands-free capture on an action-ready ultra-wide camera, powerful open-ear speakers, and built-in Meta AI that syncs with your Garmin devices for real-time insights while you train. Take your performance to the next level with Oakley Meta Vanguard. Athletic intelligence is here. Learn more on meta.com.
Does it ever feel like you're a marketing professional just speaking into the void? But with LinkedIn ads, you can know you're reaching the right decision makers, a network of 130 million of them, in fact. You can even target buyers by job title, industry, company, seniority, skills, and did I say job title? See how you can avoid the void and reach the right buyers with LinkedIn ads. Spend $250 on your first campaign and get a free $250 credit for the next one. Get started at linkedin.com/campaign. Terms and conditions apply.
And also, as we've discussed with the teams dropping out or taking a hiatus, there's not really what would you call easy teams? Not that those teams weren't capable of getting wins. It's just that there's teams that you might rest players against because you could.
Yeah, and I don't.
There's not.
There will be. Let's just say it this way. Yes, there will be teams that finish 7th and 8th and don't make the playoffs,
Yep.
but I don't anticipate seeing a 7th or 8th team who struggles so badly that they're 1-23 at the end of the season. It's going to be hyper competitive. That 5, 6, 7, and 8. Yeah, it'll be a battle.
No team that you're going to go to their place and say, okay, they can't win against us at their place. Now, I mean, again, the mentality of we can win anywhere, but you don't want to. There's not going to be a team that you're just going to be, they're a pushover. They're
Well, and I think there's a few things to look out for. Is this finally the year that Empire and Obasi Ball get over their San Diego hump, right? If they play Friday night too in San Diego, and I'm not saying they will, if Empire were to come up with a win there, I think that changes the entire narrative of the season. That gives other teams hope that they can win a front wave. That gives Empire confidence that they finally beat that team that had their number for years, and then you would see the rest of the league react. Now, I'm not saying it's going to happen, but if it were to happen, I think Empire is a team that's definitely in the mix.
Totally unrelated. Why does St. Louis always want to play on Black Friday? Seems like not.
They like playing Black Friday. They like playing on New Year's Eve too. I think or New Year's Eve. I think that's just tradition and the way that they've done it. It's always the early starts of the season because some teams prefer to start in December. But this season, it's a double header.
Yeah.
Starting with Kansas City at St. Louis and then Empire at San Diego, which is a little bit unusual because for many recent years it's been that first game in St. Louis. Most years it's been the Comets, but you might recall a few years back it was actually Milwaukee playing there on a Friday, and then Milwaukee came here to Kansas City, and their legs were shot, and the Comets beat them fairly easily.
Yeah, just always seemed weird to play on those days, but they
you have to start the season sometime, right?
Yeah, you do. That's. I wonder is their attendance usually good for those days?
I haven't gone back in the stats. I don't know that it's been great, but
I was thinking at one point it was really good for like a one-off, and then it kind of just dwindled a lot because that's not a day that people necessarily go out.
No, I guess we'll see. They've made some additions to the front office, so I'm kind of curious to see, not just for Black Friday, but 12 games out, what impact that's going to have on their overall attendance. Because I think one of the things that you and I heard when the fall meetings were here in Kansas City, it was, yes, we need to have better broadcast, more consistent broadcasting standards, but there was a commitment to front office, there was a commitment to the arena experience, and I think that the league leadership wanted to see more consistency across the board on and off the field in every market, and I think St. Louis has stepped up their front office, and I think that they see maybe an opportunity to do better in terms of where they land total ticket sales.
I think they did some upgrades to the stadium there too, if I understand correctly.
I think they did too. Yeah, it's an interesting place. If you've never been to the Family Arena, it's a very interesting place to watch the game. It's what I would call a mid-size arena. It's obviously bigger than Cable Dahmer, but it's not a far drive. You're not all the way in St. Louis, so it's a much easier drive if you're coming from any part of the Kansas City metro area. And I've enjoyed the games I've seen there and called there.
I've been there for a couple games. Been there for an ice racing event too.
The things that you do, Thad.
That was a long time ago. Before actually, I think before the Comet started back up even.
Wow.
That was a long time ago. All right. Let's see. Broadcast.
Yeah, let's talk about broadcast. So the Comets announced they're back locally on 38th The Spot, and we're proud here in this market that we not only have the streaming options that everybody across the league has, but we have that local broadcast option too. And so that was announced. The league is rolling out its streaming announcement. I think it's safe to say that we'll be on CBS Sports Golazo this weekend.
Cool.
They'll formally announce that package. The league announced this week that we'll be streaming in Mexico too, in Fox Soccer Mexico. I think if you're cynical, the question is, why did you wait until after Chihuahua was gone? But the deals come when the deals come, and hopefully that will help grow interest in bringing a franchise back to MASL 1. And there are other announcements. I think that when we roll into 2026, we'll see something else pop up too, beyond Golazo, which I think will be great for this franchise and for the league. And so it will be a lot of options for watching. There'll be a little bit of duplication in terms of different streaming services that we're at. And for the fans who are like, I want to know where we're going to be, I'd say in some leagues, sure, you're going to get that. But like if you look at the NFL, there's a little bit of fluidity in terms of, well, am I going to be on CBS? Am I going to be on Fox? Am I going to be on Amazon Prime? Where am I going to be in a given week? I think this league is more in that direction.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen that with a lot of leagues, not just NFL, but MLS used to be that way. And then when they were on a central spot, everybody hated it. There's never a simple, easy answer for this, and it's going to be a constantly changing thing. And judging what's best for your sport at that time. You know, if you can, how much you can make from those deals or not.
Well, you go back to what we experienced as broadcasters a few seasons ago, the dilemma, should you be on YouTube or should you be on Twitch? And you had a split of fans. There were some people extremely angry when the league left for YouTube to Twitch. You have some younger fans that are equally angry that it went back in the other direction to say, I love the in-game chats. I love the engagement there, and what are you doing? And so I think it's both a positive and a negative bad that they're passionate fans who want to see the game, but you're never going to get 100% of the fans to agree on what's the best course, and you're probably not even going to get 75%. So ultimately, you have to make the choice that you think's in the league's best interest and roll with it.
No, see, we see that with everything. Fortunately, Kansas City fans are typically really good fans. They show up for most all games.
This episode is brought to you by Nature's Bounty. Nature's Bounty believes your body is brilliant, naturally designed to thrive, inside and out. For those always looking for new ways to support your health from head to heels, Nature's Bounty has a range of over 400 vitamins and supplements born from 50 years of trust and care. Nature's Bounty. It's in your nature. Visit naturesbounty.com to learn more.
Hey, this is Bill Simmons from the Bill Simmons Podcast, here to tell you that Michelob Ultra, the official beer partner of the NBA, is bringing NBA fans closer than ever this season with chances to win great prizes, including courtside tickets. Enter now at MichelobUltra.com/courtside. Michelob Ultra Courtside 25 to 26. No purchase necessary. Open to U.S. residents 21 plus. Begins on October 1st, 2025 and ends on June 30th, 2026. Multiple entry periods. See official rules at MichelobUltra.com/courtside for free entry deadlines, prizes, and details.
In Walmart's Hoonuville, everyone ready their cart. Amazing Black Friday deals are about to start. Online and in the app, such great deals to explore. Everything you love from tech, toys, and more. The days to save and the ones to remember. It's only the 25th to the 30th of November. Set your alarms. Don't miss out. These deals are epic, without a doubt. The Who's are all ready, but are you? Walmart Black Friday deals await. Who knew?
Okay, Chad. Today you're gonna drive the all-electric Toyota BZ.
But my electric vehicle phobia. I'm not ready, Dr. Ross.
I believe in you.
Oh my gosh. We're inside it.
Try to take deep breaths, okay?
The ventilated seats, they're touching me.
You can do this, Chad. Drive the car. How do you feel, Chad?
I feel cured. Woohoo! I'm doing it! I'm doing it!
The all-electric BZ. One drive can change your mind. Toyota. Let's go places.
Hopefully, I know there's been a little bit of controversy over the last week. Hopefully that doesn't deter fans.
You open that door, huh? You wanna kick open the door, or are you just gonna leave it hanging out there?
Oh, this is one of those I'm a little bit. I hate to address too hard because I wish there would have been a better answer, and just for anybody who isn't doesn't know, there was a local team starting up this year that, because of MASL territory rights, wasn't allowed to play in Kansas City after all. I think the most tragic thing about it was they were not informed by their league until the last minute, even though it was a known thing from
a few months, right?
For a while,
yeah,
apparently. And they're not the only ones. There was MASL.
Two MASL 3 teams, right?
Yeah, 2 MASL 3 teams that were under the same thing. And I know that there's some places where multiple lower MASL divisions play in the same place. Not quite the same as being the top tier of your pyramid and then having other teams come into it. Same thing happens with USL. There's, sometimes you can have like 2 USL 2 teams in one territory, but not 3. Things like that.
Yeah, so what makes this a little bit complicated, because I've seen a lot of comments online that trying to draw a parallel between the relationship between MLS and NWSL. Here's the challenge with that comparison. This is a pyramid style, not pyramid scheme, pyramid style league, MASL, right, with a first division, a second division, a third division, and then a MASLW. I wouldn't call it a division. I just sort of standalone, right? But they're all in the hierarchy, and at the top of the pyramid is MASL, right? And so, how rules are made, who informs whom. There's different commissioners for the different leagues. The MASL 1 commissioner is different than the other divisions, and so how decisions are made is a lot more complex, perhaps, than what you would see in those outdoor leagues.
And differing levels of professionalism with the teams, but also the league offices. And my guess is that they would have been better informed if those leagues were a little better managed.
But you told me that this conversation took place. It's not like it took place in November. It's not like it took place in October. This goes back. So how that information was shared,
right,
it seems to be, well, right or wrong what the decision was, but how that decision was shared and when it was shared seems to have exacerbated the situation. But
exactly.
Few people are talking about the MASL 3 situation, and it's on Kansas City Latino soccer social media is how I found out about it. And so the outcry that you've been witnessing hasn't been for all the teams.
No. And understandably, and because I think one of those teams was Barrios.
Barrios, yeah.
Yeah, I can't say that word.
Yeah.
I've seen them play outdoor and USL or NPSL or USPL. I've seen them play at differing divisions, and they put out teams that are fun and entertaining, and I've known some comments that have played.
John Sosa,
yeah,
among others. You like your background noise, don't you, Thad?
Wow. Apparently a lawnmower just drove through here.
Which is odd because this is a turf surface. Obviously, there's grass outside.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know they were out doing some landscaping stuff when I came in. Okay. I don't know if I'll cut that out or just leave it.
Ambient noise.
It's the perils of doing this the way we do it.
I know you've heard from people. I've had people message me, and I wish I had more authoritative details in terms of what happened when.
Right.
I don't. And so speculating what happened when, what was decided when, that's not really something I'm going to engage in.
No, and you shouldn't. I sometimes can get away with speculation a little bit more, but I also hesitate to do it when it can do more harm than good. I feel pretty good that these Comets players and that do not hate women's soccer. The front office does not hate women's soccer.
I think if you were just to take a step back and breathe a little bit, the head coach of the team is a former player here on the Kansas City Comets who still has good friends on the Kansas City Comets. Comets ownership owned the FCKC, so there's been
they helped start this. They helped start the NWSL.
That's absolutely correct. And so it's just unfortunate. It's definitely gotten a lot of attention, not only in Kansas City but other places. in the indoor soccer world, and but I haven't gotten any sense that this is affecting team morale or what's being said on the field.
I don't think so either. I do want to do kind of another analogy or similarity is I've seen like, daycares will have like a Mickey Mouse painted on the wall, and Disney will come in and say, you didn't get the right to that, you can't have that. And it sounds like Disney is the evil empire being mean to kids, which they are sometimes, the evil empire. But it's a brand management type of thing. So if you let people do things with your brand that you didn't authorize, now there's legally you can start to like lose that right to control it. And I'm not saying this is exactly the same thing, but when you have one MASL team that's been dominant here in the area and other MASL teams pop up within that territory, it becomes a little more of a challenge to manage the MASL name in Kansas City if they're not doing things the right way.
Well, let me give you another one that'll be close to home, not only in the world you operate in, but your background. When St. Louis City FC came back in MLS, and you had podcasters using the soccer capital term, Sporting Kansas City with trademark on it pushed them back really, really hard, and this became an issue in St. Louis soccer culture. How dare you tell us we can't call ourselves the soccer capital? Well, because you didn't file any trademarks on it, and oh, by the way, you haven't been playing MLS.
Right.
Back, you can go back to the 70s, the last time you had a first division outdoor team. So
they could call themselves that. They just couldn't name a thing that at that point.
Yeah.
So like people will call Kansas City Soccer Capital of America, and we can say that, but I can't do a podcast called Soccer Capital of America
right
with that name. And that's where that trademark and not patents, but trademarks, copyrights, those come into play.
It's not a clean parallel, Thad, but you witnessed the outcry there. There was a lot of anger in St. Louis directed at Sporting Kansas City, and so that's the closest thing I can think of something we've experienced here in the metro area.
And it's the Kansas City name was also something that the Comets had to fight for, because originally they had to be called the Independence Comets or the Missouri Comets. They chose Missouri Comets. And then once they were able to get the right deal worked out, they converted back to Kansas City Comets. When I say converted back, only because there's been two versions of Kansas City Comets previously. And then also the Kansas City Attack. So there's a lot of complications to it, and I really don't think that anybody with the Comets hates women's soccer, considering I will say a quarter of these players out here I've seen at current games. I've seen the coaching staff at current games.
Yep, and a lot of them coach girls' teams too.
Yes.
So,
first time I ever saw Coach Stokey coach any type of game was women's girl soccer. He was a hard ass too.
I bet he was.
But I think that one girl cried a little bit. But they don't hate women's soccer. It's more of a brand issue and league territory rights and all that stuff. Now, do I like the way it played out? No. I wish it could have been different. I was hoping to go to some of their games. I still hope to cover them some. I do still want to. I'm probably going to run to like one of their home games in Des Moines, depending on how schedules work out. But in fact, I'm thinking about going to their first game, but I still haven't decided. So
okay.
Probably have to do it as a fan.
Yeah.
But anyway. Again, I wasn't really intending to get into that a lot, but I've seen a lot of fans out there complaining, like, oh, shame, shame. And I don't know how many of them are people who normally put their butts in seats here. But
well, and that's the thing, you never know, because, I've heard whispers of boycotts and all that other stuff. It's with social media and where we are in 2025, it's really hard to know, are these hardcore fans like season ticket holders who are going to come to all the games who are stepping back, or are these people who are vaguely interested in the Comets, more broadly engaged in the soccer community, who feel like an injustice is been done and they're going to make a statement about it?
It's because of social media. You can often see boycotts and all that of stuff that people didn't use in the first place. I'm going to boycott you. Did you buy my product in the first place? No. So That's just the way it works.
It's also an interesting time. We have World Cup coming to Kansas City. We have a lot of soccer. You and I have talked about this in the last season of this podcast, trying to not just cover, as you do, but as a fan, to try to be at every single soccer and I'm just saying professional, semi-professional up, right?
Yeah.
It's nearly impossible because it's almost 12 months a year, if not 12 months a year of soccer to watch. And really, how many people are, let's just say, 90% plus attendance at everything out there? I think that many fans kind of gravitate to their one favorite, and then they'll show up at other things. But I bet there are a few people who have season tickets to Sporting, Current, Comets, and then show up to everything else.
I ran into one at the last UMKC game when they beat Lindenwood in the NCAA as the first home playoff game for UMKC, or home tournament NCAA tournament game at UMKC that they won against the cross-state rivals.
From St. Charles?
Yeah, cross-state team. Yeah. But I saw one person there who I have absolutely seen at Sporting, Current, Comets, I think some other stuff, and super nice guy. Run into him all the time. Eric. And I know there's a couple others there that have season tickets to all of these things, but it is a very small group that can do all of that.
Well, and that's one of the challenge for soccer in this community. So if you're a new team, how do you break out? How do you get people's attention in a, I guess you could argue, a fairly crowded market? And so one of the questions, and I would say post World Cup, if you're trying to figure out what's the legacy, what's the future of soccer in this metro, is helping every team succeed rather than seeing the world as sort of a fixed pie where who gets the bigger slice of the pie. I think that
make a bigger pie.
You want to make the bigger pie. That is correct.
Which is why, since I've been doing this and I backed into covering soccer, there was times I would cover FCKC over Sporting because nobody covered FCKC. I've went to cover Sunflower State women's games in which league is it that the Courage are in?
The WPSL, and
WPSL.
I've called their games for 10 years.
Right.
Yeah.
I will show up to those games with the Courage and Sunflower State and some of the other teams that have been in that league, because it's always a rotating cast, it feels like. Although Kansas City's been much more stable lately. Because I want to help women's soccer grow a little bit, but it's also, I just love soccer. So I don't know. It's going to be a complicated thing, and it's never going to be clean completely. But
there's another thing that you made me ponder there for a second. That is the struggle of it's not just market dominance, but wanting to capture public awareness. And I think that what's been a challenge for indoor soccer is there was a period in the 1980s where the Comets were it. They weren't just it when you were thinking about versus other soccer teams. They were it.
Yep.
The Kings, NBA Kings left the town. The Comets had free reign there for the winter part of the season. They were it, right? You get past football seasons, before baseball season, that's there. Now we live in a world where you have extremely well-financed MLS and NWSL franchises here, and so how you get attention as the Comets, let alone a brand new franchise at another part of the MASL pyramid, it's a struggle. And so what do you define as success? How do you find your niche? How do you find your audience? And how do you do it in a way that's sustainable?
Yeah, and I know MASL wants to keep growing, and fans will jump in, they let 4 teams go. Well, they also need 4 teams to have the quality and standards that you want the league to have. But it is a professional league. It's a low professional league, but it is a professional league where MSL 2, 3, and W are not at this point.
Well, here's the contrary to this. You have MLS fans who are saying there's too many teams in MLS,
right,
and we need ProRel to somehow solve all this. But it's like, what's the right size? And I'd say there is no right size. It's what makes sense for your league at a certain moment. And,
yep.
and the leadership in this league believe where they are right now. makes more sense than where they ended last season.
Yeah, and I do think this league will grow back to more teams. It's just has to do it. So.
We had a broadcasters call last week, and I think with full confidence, we were told there will be more than 8 teams next year. I mean, Harrisburg is moving to Hershey, and there could be a couple teams on top of that. So I think with full confidence I can say there will be more than 8 teams when the season kicks off next year.
And they do have standards that teams coming in need to conform to, not already existing and like, we're not going to do that. So I think it's at a good place, but I know we'll talk about this 100 times. I'm going to throw a curveball at you. I saw somebody mention this somewhere, probably on a Facebook page that follows Indoor, but would it make sense for Indoor to flip the schedule like MLS is doing?
I'm glad you asked me that question because I saw that same question.
And credit to whoever asked that. I don't know who it was. I apologize.
I resisted responding, but I did respond privately to somebody who was in the chat who's a longtime indoor soccer historian, right?
I wonder who that could be.
No, not in Kansas City.
Oh, okay.
No, I'll say who it is. Ken Tomash. So he's been involved with that league that they're referencing, the Continental Indoor Soccer League, which played in the early 90s in the post-missile era. They played a summer schedule. The NPSL, Kansas City Attack, played a winter schedule. And so it made sense at the time when you had arena owners looking for summer content, but this was before there was an MLS. And so it folded around the time MLS was getting launched. And so I think the question is, what is your fan base?
Yeah.
And when does it make sense to schedule your games? From a Kansas City perspective, I get that MLS is looking to flip, but I haven't heard anything about NWSL following their schedule.
Oh, I think their commissioner has brought that up.
But they haven't made a formal announcement.
No, they haven't.
Right.
No.
Right. So there's nothing imminent on it, right?
No, it would be at least a couple years before they would happen.
But so from a Kansas City fan perspective, there's uncertainty in terms of what the other team's schedules are going to be. So if you're the owner or the ownership group of the Kansas City Comets, what decision not only makes sense for your market, but what makes sense for the 8 markets? And not every MASL market has an MLS team, believe it or not. And few of them have NWSL teams too. And so their competition, so say you're a Milwaukee, right? You don't have a team in either of those leagues. So why would you want to move to a summer schedule?
No, and I understand that. And the only reason I thought it could potentially make sense was MLS is changing. NWSL has at least now talked about it. USL has talked about it. The USL Super League, I think, is flipped. A lot of those are. So we're going to potentially be losing soccer content, majority of it, in the 2 summer months. But you still won't have it in the 2 winter months where MASL is very active. But the one thing that made sense to me was a lot of these are played in arenas, I think, that have potentially hockey teams. And you're always competing for prime dates with them. So that's where I thought maybe that would make sense. But I don't know which ones do have hockey teams.
So Milwaukee does, Utica does, San Diego doesn't anymore because they created a new arena.
Right.
Empire absolutely does, and the Ontario Reign has full reign on that arena. Tacoma does, Kansas City does.
Yeah.
So, St. Louis not at the Family Arena, I don't believe. So most of them, there's that issue, but I'd want to do a lot of polling or surveying of fans, just because. It's easy to go into a Facebook group and say, "Hey, what do you think? Should we move the schedule?" But that's with no data except for the 50 people who maybe comment on your thing, right?
Right. I'm not saying we do it because somebody asked the question, but it is an interesting question.
If you were to survey Comets fans, what makes sense? Would they see this as an attractive option in the hot summer? You'd have to go from hot winter nights to hot summer. Well, I think hot summer nights is already taken. But you have to totally change the mindset here in Kansas City in terms of how to experience. But there's one problem that I didn't see an answer to that they'd have to figure it out. So a lot of the players in this league during the off season, they're traveling around the country in tournaments, right?
Yep.
So would it make financial sense for the players in this league if you flip to a summer schedule? Would they be able to recoup that in the other parts of the year? I don't know the answer to that question, but that's one I don't see people talking about.
Because they play in tournaments like TST and Kings Leagues, and there's a lot of cash tournaments out there that people don't know about that aren't publicized or covered. Like Zach mentioned a lot about Joe Wainwright playing in one-on-one cash tournaments over the off season and he just helped build his soccer ability and stuff like that. Go back and listen to last week's pod. Actually, I'm going to post these both in the same post so that you can get them both. But anyway, that's a really good question, and I kind of wondered about that too. So you'd either have to be able to pay these players a lot more money, probably, or have those opportunities in the offseason.
Well, the other thing you might recall, there was some controversy back in that 90 era of players playing in both leagues. So they would play winter in the NPSL and then try to place in the CISL in the summer. In some cases, that was fine, but there was at least one Kansas City player with serious contractual issues. You probably recall who this was. Played for the Washington Warthogs, Goran Hunyak.
Oh, okay.
So there. It's going to be a challenge to do that on multiple levels, and so if the league were to decide to do that, let me give you one other one to consider as they decide whether it makes sense to stay or leave. We haven't talked about broadcast and streaming.
Right.
So what impact does the MLS's move and potentially NWSL's move have? Does it constrict lanes for the MASL if they're all playing at the same time? And so that could be a determining factor whether it might make sense to look at a different schedule.
Yeah, because those soccer-related outlets will have a need for more content, and they might be willing to pay for something that's high quality, good broadcast, entertaining, fast, has a pretty defined timeline, all those aspects that make indoor soccer attractive. So,
well, let me give you just a peek behind the curtain for our listeners. So on our broadcaster's call, since you mentioned the tight timeline, some of the games were dragging last year, MASL games, particularly at arenas where there's like almost no glass. The ball goes out all the time. So what we were told is they want every broadcast to run exactly 2.5 or 3 hours. So if you're at 2:20, say, when the game ends, we have 10 minutes to fill at the end of the broadcast. If we're going into overtime and we're beyond, we're going to have to figure out how to take us all the way to 3. And so it's going to be something interesting to watch.
You'll have to interview me.
Hey, come on. You know where we are. You have an extra headset. Just jump on.
Nobody wants to have me be interviewed. They might need the bleep button.
7 seconds, right?
Yeah. I'm actually better about that than people think. Not perfect. All right, so I think there's a lot of questions there. And I just saw that on the comments, and I was like, that's kind of a good question. So it might, not saying it's something that needs to happen next year, but it might be a wise thing for the league to look at.
Yeah, I would just caution fans, if you think MLS just magically decided one day, it makes sense. They were going to take a vote earlier this year, and they postponed it. And you can imagine how many years they've been studying this from all sorts of angles. It wasn't just it makes common sense, so we're going to do it.
They tabled the vote the previous year.
That is correct.
Because there are not enough owners were going to say yes.
That is correct.
So it's been over at least a couple years. And yes, they've been looking at it for a long time. And yes, they should have approved it the previous year because it would have made much more sense to do it this coming year with the World Cup. And it may at some point make sense for MASL to do it because of a calendar thing or another event thing. But if NWSL and other leagues are all going to the winter schedule, it should make sense to at least seriously consider it for a lot of different reasons. I'm not saying they should do it, But I think it's a thing that we will probably come up and discuss every so often, just because a lot of these other leagues are moving to those schedules.
Well, and I guess one final thought on calendaring: if you're thinking about this from not from a in-arena perspective, but you're thinking from a broadcast perspective, what's attractive on the current schedule right now is, if you're looking at, say, a CBS Sports Golazo, they do a lot of European content during the daytime.
Yeah.
A kickoff at 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock Central in Kansas City, there's nothing happening in Europe, right? So it's like counter-programming what else is going on. If you start competing with domestic leagues, you'll need to think a little bit about it. It may be that you stay a winter league, or winter into spring, but you think a little bit about your start times in terms of where do we find the right niche so we can get our broadcast
or the days they play on.
That's true too. That's true too.
I mean, I don't really want there to be a league that's like Tuesdays and Thursdays.
No, but MLS has moved to a primarily Saturday night league, right? With some exceptions.
Well, there's going to be more midweek games this year because of the schedule.
The break for World Cup,
yeah.
But people look at Utica, UCFC, with their Sunday afternoon games and think, oh, Sunday afternoon soccer? How many people on a given Saturday or Sunday go to a Chiefs game at Arrowhead? So it's not like you can't get eyeballs on a Sunday for a sport. It's just traditionally indoor soccer has been on Friday night or Saturday.
Well, yeah, and I don't have a problem with Sunday afternoon games, but you just have to be leery or wary, or you need to be cognizant of what you're going against. So in Kansas City, you don't want Sunday afternoon games on an NFL season. Not that the Chiefs play every Sunday afternoon. They play Thursdays and Thanksgivings and Mondays and Fridays and all these other options that for 27 different leagues.
But it might make sense if there were a MLS or NWSL game at 6 o'clock here in Kansas City on a Sunday, which occasionally happens, to be playing at a 2 o'clock.
Yeah.
And so
you
you
go from one to the other.
Yeah, right.
So, so again, it's a lot of questions. There is no perfect answer. No scheduler is going to be perfect in doing this stuff. And, I did complain about the MLS schedule because they scheduled both games against St. Louis on a Wednesday.
That was one complaint, and if you looked very carefully and crosswalked it with the Comets schedule, there will be a few sporting games I will not be going to because the Comets schedule came out first.
Yeah, but that's why I would love for them to be as separate as possible. Can't win them all.
That's a fact.
All right, we got very astray with other teams, other stuff, broadcast schedules, changing.
But we'll reel it back once we're in season. So next week, when we come back, we will have had 2 games to analyze. Plus, we'll be able to preview the first major road trip, which will be a real test for the Comets. They go to Baltimore on a Saturday night and then have to flip up to Utica on Sunday. So we'll take a look at what they accomplished this weekend, preview the next weekend, and then we'll kind of get in a rhythm where it's more game-focused.
What's the other game this weekend besides St. Louis and Kansas City?
So you watch Kansas City and St. Louis, and then the second half of the doubleheader will be Empire at San Diego, which will be a really good test for Empire.
I was just wondering because the teams that Kansas City will then go play next will have had a chance to watch Kansas City a couple times. Not that there's anything way out of the ordinary here.
Well, and if you listen to our broadcast on Saturday, you might hear me referencing who's watching. Future opponents watching the game. So I might be giving some shout-outs to Baltimore and Utica players and coaches who are watching.
Oh, yeah. I'm sure they will be. I mean, I would be because that's how you scout.
Yep.
All right, any predictions for this weekend?
Well, you either believe in this team or you don't. So let's just say 2-0.
I think 2-0. I do think one of them will be a tough game, though. The other one won't be easy, but maybe not as tough. All right. Anything else we need to discuss?
No, I hope that all our listeners have a happy Thanksgiving. Hope they're as excited as I am for this new season to kick off. And I think when you see this roster on the field in a game situation, you're going to start thinking about what you're doing this next April.
Yeah, they have a lot of depth. Just got to keep people healthy. Like, as we've said, seems like every single time. Happy Thanksgiving.
You too.
To you, to everybody. You gonna eat a lot of turkey?
I'll have more than my share. How's that?
Fair enough. Appreciate everybody listening. Stay tuned. Again, I do not know for sure, but I will be trying to get at least one other interview after this pod. So just stay tuned through a few seconds of music. It'll pop back up. Or it won't. You won't have wasted a whole lot of time, I promise. Appreciate it, and we are out. Right, here with Coach Stokic. How you doing today, Coach?
I'm great. How are you?
Not bad. We just watched the end of practice here, man. How was that?
It was good. Again, this would be our, third week, but 2 weeks of preseason. This is game week, so for the time that we had to prepare for it, I think we're as ready as we can be.
All right. Good season last year. Fell short of where you wanted to be, obviously. What's different about this team that gives you optimism?
I always look back in first year, second year. This would be my third year. First year was a lot of unknowns, and we figured them out throughout the season as a group and as a team. And then we made the finals. Came short. Last year was a different kind of challenge. I felt like we went back and forth with injuries and personnel and changing positions and changing a lot of things. And when you start doing that, it affects the flow of the game. It affects the flow of the players, the confidence, the quality, right? So like when you go from there to there, I felt like we had a lot of lost momentum going into playoff last year, and that's what ultimately, in my opinion, we fell short with. I felt like the boys fought through every minute of the game. I don't think there was anything. I mean, again, we made a lot of mistakes, and that cost us that game because I felt like we were coming back into it, and then we make a mistake, and then we go out. So I felt like we didn't just have that flow that we had the year past, right? So again, I'm not one to make excuses. We fell short, but I feel like this year we've added some quality players, and I feel like our roster depth is much better. Like one of my thoughts and plans were within my 3-year span as the head coach was by third year that we have depth that we can really, really count on, quality depth, right?
Yeah.
We don't really have, now we have one rookie first year, but our depth is quality, which again gives us a little bit more option, and it gives me the fact that I don't have to change players' positions, which I think is very important. So I think that, when people look at it, but again, I feel like this year we should be able to make changes, and again, every change affects in a different way, but the quality hopefully stays high.
Yeah, just looking from the outside in, it looks like it'd be hard for me to name what I think is the 15 best players, maybe, because every time I do that, like, oh, maybe this guy should be in, maybe that guy should be in. Just watching practice, it seems like you have depth at every position, sometimes 2 and 3 deep. Is that a fair statement?
For the most part, yeah. I mean, I think, we're working in, different things with players that maybe wasn't in a plan to play offense, power play offense or power play defense, or vice versa, 6 attacker offense, 6 attacker defense. So I think we have various options now, right?
Yeah.
You can go from a fast-moving team to a little bit more steady quality shooting team, right? You can, however you want to look at it. But I think I would agree, yeah.
So I would take that as you can tailor a lot of that to the team you're playing against, but I know you still want to have your core principles. You're always going to play a certain way. Is that also a fair statement?
Fair statement.
Who do you think is going to surprise us this year?
I think we've done this in the last 2 years, and I never got it right. My expectation is every player needs to improve and get better. So right now, I'm not going to label one player. Is everybody. Everybody within what we have. If that's defense, a midfielder, target, every player needs to improve for us to gain the success that we want. So my answer is every player needs to step up.
I know you added Dom and David, and you've re-signed some younger guys. I think those announcements are coming out. Maybe another young guy. I don't want to break news here that I've not been authorized to say yet, but. It just seems like this team just keeps getting wider and deeper across the whole thing. But some of those young guys, you think that they're going to make that step up?
That's the goal. I've had individual conversations with all my players, and one of the things that I've talked to with the young guys is that they need to, step up their quality, right? Whatever position they're playing, they have to, get better in every aspect. If the weakness is, they know, in our conversations, I tell them what they need to work on, and the expectation is that they get better in that individual thing that we need. If it's a touch, a shot, movement, timing, whatever it is, they need to get better at. So.
Yeah, I saw you a number of times during this last half hour stop players and, you need to make this run, you need to do it at this time, you need to do it in this way, or these things to open up this next thing. And I just love watching that building of how one thing works and affects the next thing. And
Correct.
I always like doing that.
There's a ripple effect.
Yeah, it is. It's just the way you're turned makes a big difference of how you receive the ball, of how the defender has to play you. I also love the fact that I've watched a number of defenders tell an attacker, this is how you should attack this, and vice versa, things like that. So you got a lot of leaders in this team that's teaching each other how to play.
There's one thing I'm going to say, that our culture that we have within our team, and the healthy competitiveness that we have, they're very competitive, but in a healthy way. For me personally, it makes me proud. I feel like even with that there, I feel like I've achieved.
Yeah.
I've achieved a lot. So I take pride in that, and I am there's not one player that I feel like that are not here, not helping each other out, no matter if it's a defender, forward, whatever it is. And my culture, and I've told this probably a million times, is very, very important. But what we've built here is unbelievable. Like, we're not talking about talent now. We're not talking about we're talking about guys that have been in the league, that have been here long. Everybody is helping everybody, and the culture is healthy. Again, there's good and bad days, but that for me is a very, very proud thing for me as a coach to be able to say, because, I feel like we've built it all together. So,
You feel like you built the team to finish in the top two?
I've built a team to compete for a championship. Okay, so my thing is, my goal is always to win a championship. My goal is to be number one. My goal is to win it. So my answer would be I built a team to compete for a championship.
Didn't want to put a finishing spot on it, I get.
Well, it's not a finishing spot. It's just how you look at it. Top two. My objective is not to be top two. My objective is to be number one.
Yeah, and I just meant in the standings, so for playoff purposes is where I was going with that. I didn't actually ask that very well.
Well, when you look at it that way, that's a different question. I mean, you want to finish top two because you have that bye for that first weekend, right? So yes, objectively correct. But again, my goal is to be number one.
Playing St. Louis, the traditional Black Friday, and then next day doubleheader thing. What do you expect from St. Louis this year?
I feel like that St. Louis has gotten better and better. They've trying to improve. I think last year they built this monster roster, and then they figured out some stuff and they made playoffs, right? Yeah. Which I think is very important people to understand that, they are, and I felt they have gotten faster, which I think, a little bit trying to replicate the transition game, which, is actually, in my opinion, very smart. So I think they're gonna be a good team. I always, it's very hard because I've played against them, coached against them so many times. It's very hard to know what exactly they're gonna do and how they're gonna do it. But I think they're going to be a really good team in transition. I think they added some quality players. So I think, how they finished the last season, I think they're going to try to grow it. And if they do that, then they're going to grow throughout the season very strong, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's a team you're going to play a lot. So yes. you're going to have to find ways to beat them a lot in order to be where you want to be in the standings.
Yeah, it's been a challenge because I think, when you play against a team so many times, players tend to know their tendencies, how to do this and that. So it becomes a lot harder, I would agree. But, we just as a team, it's a good test for us because we have to find solutions to that, right? I think they had a really good game plan last year when they beat us. I, as a coach, and again, I take that on myself, I wasn't expecting that. They never done that against us.
Yeah.
I wasn't prepared for it. So I think, again, objectively, right now, I don't know what else they can throw at me not to be ready anymore or not being prepared for it. So I feel like I'm confident that I'm ready. But again, you never know.
Has that been one of your growing points over these seasons, is to learn how to be prepared for those different teams better?
I would say everything's a learning curve. I think within the 2 years, I think I've grown on the side of coaching and managing, and all these tough moments build who you are. I felt like in the past I was always prepared for. I try to be over prepared, which again, there was maybe a few teams that did something differently that I wasn't ready for. Like I wasn't really prepared for it. But I think for me, one of my strengths is that I'm prepared and overly prepared for opponents. So I would say for me, the learning things I've learned is just, trying to be consistent as a coach with my principles, try to treat everybody respectfully, managing players and managing staff, managing, ownership as well too. I think I've grown in those aspects, and for me, I feel like I want to grow every day with everything that I do. If that's tactically, if that's training wise, if that's preparation. We've changed a lot of things this year compared to last year with our preparation and things that we do and how we run sessions, and we'll see if it's a good effect or not on Friday. So,
cool. How's the health?
I think we're okay. I think there's a couple guys that came in not as fit, and when we started preseason, they had some knacks and some injuries. I wish that we didn't have any of those, but I think nothing major, so that's a plus. But I think we're okay. We're not going to have everybody ready for Friday, so we're going to have some injured players. But I think we gotta keep going. So
I know last year I thought Marcel Barry started off the season really well and then had his injury, and you lost a big key component to your team. You still played really well without him, but it's just you have different options when you have Marcel. He's with his speed and some of his skill and all that. How's he doing?
I'm going to be honest with you, a lot better than I expected. He trained the 2 days for at least 3 of those days out of 5, and I wasn't expecting him, to do much. We were not actually even planning to play him until the middle or the end of December. So he's already looking that he's ready for a lineup. Now, I don't know if he's ready for a back-to-back game, right? I think that's objectively a decision we have to make. But right now, what I see him, I can see him playing one game for sure.
Yeah, that's cool. That's we talked to him last week, and he had a little nagging muscle injury that he said he was doing good and would be ready. But coaches have a different perspective sometimes.
Yeah, what I told him too is if you feel anything, just step out. Let's take it with caution going forward. Because coming back from a big injury like that, there's always little things that can come, surface that you never felt before. So I think right now our game plan is working, and hopefully we can build them up into playoffs.
Cool. I don't know anything else I really should be asking you today. It'll be different once we're able to see the team play and see how they do and who you put out there, and then I can say, what about this guy? What about that guy? But I don't want to reveal anything I may have learned from watching these lineups out here in practice, because that would get me banned from here. But it does look like some interesting lineups, and I'm really looking forward to some of those guys out there.
Thank you.
Good luck this season, Coach.
Appreciate it.
And we're out.
Attention passengers, we've now reached our destination. We hope you enjoyed the flight and have a nice day.